You know, because I'm a walking stereotype, I was a Ron Paul supporter. And you can all relax. The story is not going to now left turn into me fucking Ron Paul. We're past that. It's like someone wanted that. There's a whole internet for you to submit that story to. So yeah, I was a Ron Paul supporter. You know, enough so that I actually sucked it up and attended my local Republican precinct caucus on Super Tuesday 2008. I shaved, buttoned up my shirt, and plunged into enemy territory. I did not widely advertise this fact. So my intention was to go in, lay low, cast my votes for sympathetic delegates, and slink back into irrelevance. But then this old Jewish dude stood up and asserted that an election is not the time to assume a moral position. But, you know, then when is the appropriate time? When there's nothing at stake? When there's nothing to be either gained or lost by espousing a principle? And then I started getting really irritated with everyone, and then I started talking, and I talked for a while, and then a bunch of people started arguing, and then some guy raised his hand and nominated me as a Republican delegate, and a bunch of people voted for me. So the three primary slots went to the McCain supporters, but I somehow got elected as one of the alternates, which is how I found myself at the Republican convention for Senate District 44 in Hopkins. Now I'm a playwright in Minneapolis, which means that I find myself operating in a pretty lefty crowd most of the time, and most of my energy goes toward arguing with that and musing about how I really fucking can't stand Democrats, which is why I was startled to be reminded of a fact that I had almost entirely forgotten, that I really fucking can't stand Republicans. You know, and I remember I was standing in the registration line and they hit me with this hefty registration fee that they neglected to mention I'd have to pay when they elected me to the gig. So I'm standing there, I am literally rifling through my pockets, counting out bits of change. Well, you know, the guy taking registrations is glowering at me angrily, and all the other rich white guys in line are glowering at me too, because they don't seem to get that I really don't have money that I can just pull out and hand to people. I finally made it into the convention proper. Now, I've spent the past 20 years performing for a variety of different audiences in a variety of different contexts, and if I've acquired any ability in that time, it's at the very least in awareness of audience response. And the playful back and forth between the speakers and the crowd was riddled with so much understated racism, homophobia, and xenophobia, I still feel a little slimy thinking about it. The Libertarian Party convention was not much better. You will never find a more stammering, awkward, inarticulate group of people than libertarians. I still remember the convention the previous year entitled Women of Liberty, you know, where all the speakers were women and all the topics boiled down to variations on effectively communicating libertarian ideas to women. In other words, how to talk to girls. You know, and looking around the nearly entirely white, male, bearded, wild-eyed, manifesto-typing audience, it wasn't hard to see why they chose this tack. There was a guy there from a cable access show who invited me to come and speak on camera for a Liberty Minute. This is real. Again, that is the appropriate response to that. To spend a minute talking about what a wonderful thing liberty was. And I thought that was kind of a stupid idea, but I said I'd do it. And the guy was careful to instruct me to make sure that liberty appeared as a positive thing and not to include any of its negative aspects. One of the least appealing traits of hardcore libertarians is that we're often marked by that same repulsive ideological certainty that, forgive me, characterized the socialists of so many decades ago. And I found myself despairing again at the disappointment of 3 political parties. But when Super Tuesday rolled around, I was excited. I called up my girlfriend, picked up popcorn and beer, and figured we'd make a night of it. We could get recklessly drunk, watch lots of media coverage, and have just boatloads of sloppy alcoholic sex. This is my idea for romantic evening. I don't know how I still had a girlfriend. But, in my defense, this started out fun. We were chattering enthusiastically, flipping between CNN, MSNBC, Fox News. But as the evening wore on and the numbers rolled in, I found myself growing intensely depressed. Why was I putting myself through this? The issues that I've devoted my life to are so marginalized by that coverage that they have no possible relevance to me. I can't even blame that on the media. People simply don't care about alternate party politics. I mean, why should they? I am so far in the minority that my activism is a joke, a punchline that stopped being funny years ago. This goes beyond rooting for the underdog. This is not rooting for the Giants. This is more like, say, rooting for the Twins, but, during the Super Bowl. And then Barack Obama started to speak. And I watched. And I listened. I watched as he spoke animatedly about an empathy deficit. I listened as his followers chanted their support in a feverish enthusiasm. I watched as he talked about the need to shut down all the cynics and skeptics, all the doubters, and embrace the power of positive thinking. I watched as he elegantly wielded the language of collectivism. And as I watched and listened, I felt something, something I hadn't felt in a while, something like a little itch on the back of my neck, a hot twist in my bowels. And it took me a while to remember what that feeling was. Anger. And suddenly I leapt to my feet, ran to my computer, and started typing. I already had ideas for 2 new sketches, maybe 3 if I hammered out the details on that one. My brain was on fire. See, because I am a great believer in the power of negative thought. And in an age of affirmation, of self-help and self-love, of the rebirth of wide-eyed idealism and the power of positive thinking, I am so happy to be a champion of skepticism and doubt. That night, I rediscovered my role, my reason, and my rage, and reflected on the irony that Barack Obama, the great orator, the energizer of the Democratic Party, he had found a way to rejuvenate my commitment as well.